The Ambitious Radio Network. Conversations with ambitious entrepreneurs and thought leaders. Are you an entrepreneur, startup junkie, or just someone interested in improving their leadership skills? If you're looking to be motivated, inspired, and uncover what it takes to get to the next level, listening to Ambitious Radio will be well worth the investment of your time. We have weekly engaging conversations with today's most influential thought leaders and entrepreneurs as they discuss their successes, failures, tipping points, and other priceless information that you can apply immediately after listening. And welcome to the show. Good to have you right here. It is Ambitious Radio, hosted by our friend Doug Parker, talking about entrepreneurship and leadership while interviewing interesting people and what makes them ambitious. Now, you know the show wouldn't be possible without our sponsors, Grasshopper.com, the entrepreneur's phone system. You know, most of the time, small business owners need to personally guarantee any loans that their companies take out. That can be kind of tough to do if you have credit issues. So if you have less than perfect credit, go to RepairMyCreditNow.com for a free credit report evaluation. RepairMyCreditNow.com. Doug, what do we have going on today?
Today we've got another great guest. My name is Doug Parker. I'm the host of the show, and we've got Jeff Kleid on the show with us today, and he is an expert in several things. He wrote a book called Networking: The Cards You're Dealt. He's a speaker, a business strategist, and consultant, and he really has expertise in building best of class in sales and customer service teams. So he started way back in his days as a tipped valet for Disneyland Hotel, where he could learn from folks like Michael Eisner. So I know there's a lot more to what you got going on, but what all did I leave out in the intro there, sir?
You know, I mean, you have more than 1 hour. We have there's plenty of stuff. No, you know, I mean, I worked for tips for many years, and I learned how to just be who I am by working for tips. And at the same time, I worked through the system. You know, I went to school. It took a long time. I paced myself, had a lot of fun, figured out how to learn how to study, do all the things you're supposed to do. And at the same time, I would say I accidentally fell into a really great opportunity that turned into, when you say accidentally, I didn't know where it was going to take me. I didn't know it was going to take me to where I am today. But a lot of my background is just from, I'm a collector of good people, and I love having fun with people. And in fact, I'm actually going, I go on a regular basis to see my friends I grew up with in Phoenix, even though I live out here in California. And that's really what taught me how to be who I am. That's how I do it.
You talk about being a collector of good people, and you mentioned, working for tips. And, somebody, I'd heard this one time before, and it wasn't directly said to me, but it was said in a conversation. But it was talking about, your raise will become effective when you do. And when you're in commissioned environments, when you're in tipped environments, you get tipped and promoted and raises and those things when you're effective. Now, the reality is, sometimes you don't always get the tip that you deserve or the promotion that you deserve or whatever the case is. But if you're not doing the type of activities that would get you a raise or a tip, you're definitely not going to get it from what I've seen in the past. So that's a neat environment to, kind of have the experience with, because you got to hustle. You really got to get out there and work.
Yeah. And by the way, I mean, the best learning experience I had is, being able to work at the Disneyland Hotel, for example. It's a very diverse group of people. So it's not like you're working for the Ritz-Carlton or the Four Seasons or something else where, people traditionally have to have money to go pay for a room at that level, right? But at the same time, you go to Disney, or you go to other, whether it's Orlando, or you go to any other type of place where you have a mixed pot of people. You have people at lower economic scale, higher economic scale, but everyone's there for the purpose. And I think for me, that was the best part, was that I got to see, somebody would come in and you could tell just by talking to them and having some sort of interaction with them, not to mention their van packed with, luggage and suitcases and strollers and all that stuff. You could tell like where they were coming from versus, someone would come in with 3 cars and one person's driving them around, and, and they get out of the car and they've got, all matching luggage. And, if they have kids, they have a stroller and they had a nanny. So like there was this different style, and you had to learn how to adapt to each person. So for me, it was great, because I got an experience that not everyone gets to see, but I didn't go there and say, oh, I'm going to have this experience that everyone doesn't get to see, but it's just how it played out. So it's pretty cool.
I've heard a lot of great stuff about Disney, and I think there's a book. I think it's called Creating Magic or something to that effect. But with that being said, do you have a favorite memory of Disney?
Oh, I have so many favorite memories. I think the best experience on a tipped level, I think, would be I had experience with management. I had experience with Michael Eisner. I had experience across the board. But I'll give you one of my favorite tipped moments that made me realize just how much I enjoyed doing what I did. One of the best experiences I had was I remember this guy came in, and he actually came in with his family, and they went up to they got their room, they did whatever they did, and later that day they came out, and he and I were talking while another valet was going to get the car, because I was a valet there, and we were talking, and I was asking him where, if he knew where he'd like to go for dinner, what would he like, and he started telling me about this place that he remembered that stuck in his head from when he was there almost 30 years earlier, which was almost the beginning of when the park opened. And I remember having the whole conversation. I mean, I can actually visualize it while I'm talking to you. And we were having this conversation. And when he told me, and I said, I think it's this place called Belial's, which was down on Harbor Boulevard, which is by Disneyland. And I go, I think that's it, because it was orange groves. And he went there, and before he left, he went to give me $1. And the $1 was meant for the valet that was pulling up the car. And I intentionally said to him, no, I didn't do anything. Give it to the guy pulling up the car, right? I mean, that's what you do. And I felt great about helping him. I felt great about having the conversation. And I figure I'm there for 6-8 hours a day. This is what you do, right? You help people, and you figure out how to make their experience better. And it was funny because that night he came back and he pulled in. And I remember two things about him. First, he had a Las Vegas or a Nevada license plate, which, if you're working in tips and you figure it out, anytime you see a Nevada plate, you're like excited because they tip more because they're used to tipping. I mean, look, I'm not going to sell you. I'm going to tell you this is how it works. I mean, you see a Nevada plate, and I can't tell you how many valets jumped off their feet to run to help that car. I mean, that's how it works. Whoever hustled better and more efficiently got to that car with Nevada plates. But what was great was he had that, and he had one of these like kind of casino jackets on. And I remember that, and we were talking, and he jumps out of the car, and he actually remembered my name. He's like, Jeff, I got to tell you, that was so great. That was exactly the restaurant. That was this, that was this, that was this. And the guy gave me $5 for parking his car. And I thought about it at that moment, how cool it was, and I thought about how great it was, but I didn't really think about it being like the biggest deal in the world until years later. I actually reflected on it, and I even put it in my book because it's such a neat moment. But the next part about that, which was great, here I was thinking this guy, he's just a Nevada guy, he plays at a casino, he goes to the small casinos with his jacket, he stepped up and gave me $5, and that was really cool. The next day I see him again, and I just said, hey, by the way, thanks again for last night. It was great seeing you. I hope you have a safe trip. I'm actually going to be in Vegas later today because, in college, you just figure out how to go there, right? So I went there, and he said to me, where are you staying? I'm like, I don't know. We haven't found a place yet. He's like, really? And I go, yeah, we're college guys. I mean, that's what you do. You just drive out. And he goes, you have a phone? And I said, yeah, we have a house phone. And he went to the house phone, and he makes a call, and he asked the question. He said, hey, do we have any rooms available at the Excalibur tonight? And he's like, Jeff, what's your last name? I told him my last name. And he goes, it's for Jeff Kleid, and it's done. It's booked. Put it under my name. And he gives me his card, and he was the CFO of Circus Enterprises.
Whoa.
And it was crazy. It was crazy. And it was, not only was it crazy, but I'll tell you how much crazier it was. I actually, whenever I went to Vegas for the next couple of years, I would call him from a house phone. If I ever made it to like Excalibur or Circus, I would call him from a house phone because they didn't have payphones, or they didn't have cell phones back then. But I would call him, and he'd answer my call. Like, hey, you having fun? What's going on? Never saw him again, but it was great memory, great experience, and it made me think years later about that customer service experience that truly, I could have taken that in any direction, but the direction it went was amazing.
It really goes to show you, and I know we're going to talk a little bit about your book in the next segment, but it just goes to show you that you never know who is who and what's going on in their life or whatever the case is. And also, what kind of an impression you can make on them and how the little things, can really, really make a huge difference. But, let's kind of talk a little bit about, we've got a little bit about your past and some stuff from Disney. So let's talk a little bit about what you do to grow, to educate yourself. I mean, obviously, you talked about you went to school and those kind of things, but what do you do now today to kind of expand your mind?
So now I actually have a consulting practice, and about 3 or 4 years ago, I actually about 7 years ago, I was fortunate enough to slow down and take some time off. I still had a company, but I was working a lot less, and I actually wasn't expanding my mind. I was actually just kind of becoming one of those guys, and I don't know if you visualize them or you see those guys. I was one of those guys who had a little opportunity of time, and I would actually be able to pick out the other guys sitting out at the mall having nothing to do that were like in their 40s, like young guys that were actually like trying to mill around, like trying to figure it out. And so over the last, probably 2 years, I've really sharpened my mind, and and there's a couple things I do. One is I mentor. I actually am very involved with what they call the UCI Cove over here in California. Just recently got involved with that as an expert in residence. So on the one hand, I'm a mentor, but on the other hand, I get to learn what's going on and pay attention to what's going on in technology and with startups and with the space from that approach. On the other hand, I have, probably 10 different interactions a week, whether they're coffees or lunches, that may or may not drive some business opportunity, but truly allow me to be able to add what other people do into my, call it my quiver, be able to add it in to when I'm talking to someone who might have that need, I can help with that. And I can instantly get them there. I actually, on my card, I actually call myself the Chief Collaboration Officer because that's who I am. That's how I think.
Man, so. I love that, Chief Collaboration Officer. And when you're helping other people, the old Zig Ziglar quote of, if you just help enough other people get what they want in life, you'll always have what you want. But you're helping people, you're mentoring to them, but you learn from them as well and are collaborating with them. And that really is some great info. Now, how about books? Do you have a favorite book that you really either like to read on a regular basis or maybe have just gotten a lot of good information out of recently?
The one book that really sticks with me out of everything I do is really The Tipping Point. And Malcolm Gladwell's The Tipping Point, and it's because I think in every company there's a time where something happens where you either have to change, you do change, but now people notice it. And so I think The Tipping Point is my biggest, is the thing that sticks with me all the time, and I actually say it on a regular basis. I mean, it's become part of my vernacular. Like when I'm talking to a company, it's just, that's what it is, and it just speaks to you when you think about The Tipping Point.
I love that book also. I quote it often, especially the part about being an expert. A lot of people, they want to be an expert at stuff, and some of them are and some of them aren't. But, I think it's something like it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert at something, which is, there's about 2,000 hours, roughly in a year as far as working hours most people work, and so it takes about 5 years before you can even get close to even thinking about becoming an expert in something. But we all want to get into business and be the expert and not feel like you don't know what you're doing. But it normally takes a few years to kind of get some of those things underneath your belt. So with that being said, we'll wrap up this segment. And if you like what you're hearing, guys, you can go on Facebook, like us there to Ambitious Radio, or follow us on Twitter, and tune in after the break. We'll have a brief word from our sponsors, and then we'll hear more from Jeff about his career pursuits, his experiences, and how he became an ambitious entrepreneur right here on the Ambitious Radio Network.
Here's another RepairMyCreditNow.com story.
It's a day this family had dreamed of for quite some time. They were finally getting that brand new SUV. The salesperson at the auto dealership gave them the keys and told them to take it for the weekend. He'd prepared the documents and called them Monday morning. The kids had already installed the headrest DVD when the phone rang. Seems there was a problem with their credit they were unaware of. They'd have to return the SUV to the dealership immediately. Embarrassing, to say the least.
www.repairmycreditnow.com.
Hello, this is Doug Parker with RepairMyCreditNow.com. Do you have less than perfect credit, a repo, maybe some late payments, a collection account? Are they being reported accurately? Studies show that over 70% of Americans have inaccuracies on their credit reports. Where do you fit in? Go to repairmycreditnow.com for your free credit report evaluation. And remember, your credit is your future. If you want to get started now, log on now. repairmycreditnow.com.
RepairMyCreditNow.com. www.repairmycreditnow.com.
As we get back into the show, let's give a shout out to our great sponsors, all3reports.com. That's all, the number 3 reports with an S.com. You know, many people check their credit every 3 to 5 years when they're financing a home or maybe when they're purchasing a new vehicle. But if there is an issue, it could be too late to do anything about it. So go to all3reports.com to find out more. Speaking of a new vehicle, a wise person once said, lease what depreciates, buy what appreciates. So go to Autoflex Leasing. They offer a better way to lease your next car. America's largest independent leasing company is Autoflex Leasing. Doug?
All right, we're back on the Ambitious Radio Network, and today we've got Jeff Kleid, and we're going to talk a little bit about his professional experiences and some of those things. And in the break, we were kind of talking about kind of his entrepreneurial experience. But tell us about how you got into that. Was it something you purposely set out for?
No, it wasn't purposely set out for. You know, I set out, I mean, I originally, you know, it's funny, originally back in the day, I thought, okay, I love this hotel hospitality stuff. I'm going to work my way into, you know, maybe, you know, managing or owning a restaurant or, you know, something like that, or a hotel or whatever. And then I met my wife and I ended up having an opportunity to go into the insurance field as a sales guy, as a straight commission sales guy. And I went in there and I got told a couple things. I got told, you know what, it's going to take you a lot of time. To your point, you know, that you said right before the end, you said it takes 5 years. I got told, look, if you want to make any type of significant money, it's going to take you 5 years to get there. But at the end of those 5 years, you'll have a revenue stream that sticks with you. And that's what I was told. And it wasn't set as revenue. It was, you know, income or whatever. But, you know, you just think a little differently now. But it was interesting because I always thought, okay, I can create a good living and I can support, you know, my soon-to-be wife, and if we have kids, I can make a good living and do what I need to do, and I don't have to work weekends. That's what actually really excited me, was I could work 5 days a week and not have weekends after working a bunch of years in hospitality. And you know, a few years into working for commission, I was actually working with my wife's father in a family business, but I was still a straight commission producer, and I had the opportunity to meet a lot of people in my industry, in the insurance industry, and I actually started bringing them kind of on board because I was listening to him say, hey, we need to grow, or you need to be at, you know, if you don't grow, you're out of business. But I was just a sales commission guy, so I didn't think about it. And it got to a point where I had started bringing in so many people to our world that I realized, you know, I see a vision. I see how to get this to the next level. So I actually was fortunate about 7 or 8 years later, when it was a very small operation, to take some control just because of some things that had happened. I got in, you know, in the position where I was able to make decisions, and I was able to kind of bring people, and quite frankly, the statement was, you have to take a pay cut because you make too much commission. So it's kind of funny, but that's a whole different story. But the goal was to, you know, kind of grow this thing and figure it out. I saw a plan. I created a plan. I had a vision. And I actually took the company, I grew it by about 1,000% over the next several years, kind of at the helm. And by the end of that, I kind of came out on the other side as an I would say an accidental entrepreneur. Like I really didn't set out to be an entrepreneur, but I knew I couldn't just let my life be in control of other people. So I actually sold my shares in that back to my wife's family, and then launched another company, and I bought assets from the first company, and then was able to build another platform actually on internet insurance, selling insurance on the internet for many years. But what was interesting about it was that there was no way I could go back to corporate life. I truly am an accidental entrepreneur. I truly am an intentional connector. And if you put those two things together, you know, I even coined a phrase just the other day because I thought it was funny. I was talking to somebody, and I'm like, I'm actually like the entrepreneur whisperer. Like, that's who I am. Like, I'm an entrepreneur because I have to be, because I get it, because I need things in my control, but not because I'm a control freak, just because I want to make sure that they do get done. And if you leave them out of your control, it's a very frustrating process. So that's where I'm at.
No, that makes perfect sense. And, you know, so many people out there, and there's nothing wrong with being an employee. as an employer. A lot of times if you're an entrepreneur, you're going to have employees for the most part. And so there's different strokes for different folks, as they say. But if you are an entrepreneurial type or a driver personality, and there's some things that it makes it difficult to put, your success, in other people's hands. And so when you can kind of take it and make something happen, it can make a huge difference. So I love that accidental entrepreneur and the intentional connector. Those are two things that really go nicely in kind of what you're doing now. And of course, the book that you wrote, can you tell us just a little bit about the book and the premise of it?
Yeah. So the book's pretty much, when I got back into business, about 2013, I sold the balance of my second insurance agency to a division of Aon, which is a fairly large insurance broker in the world. And I was trying to figure out the next approach, and I actually found myself, believe it or not, in the mortgage world. I'd never had a mortgage license, but I met a guy, and I really liked him, and he was a really good guy, and he had asked me if I could help him out with some relationships and build some relationships for him based on my old relationships to help do mortgage and loans. And I said, well, if I'm going to do it, I really have to know it. I have to get licensed. So I got licensed in all the mortgage and all these things, and I found myself going in a direction I didn't even anticipate. I ended up working with going to broker previews and doing all these things you do with realtors, and they're good people. It's just, it wasn't what I even thought I was going to do. I thought we were just going to go use my relationships and do what we did, and be licensed and work together and do what we did. But about a year into it, I was like, you know what? I need to communicate differently. And it seems like every breakfast and lunch I was having with people to re-engage, they didn't know the rules of networking. They didn't know. So the book is actually called Networking with the Cards You Were Dealt. And they didn't really know the rules on how you communicate and how you engage and how you don't make it about you and how you should be a giver and how you should truly want to help people, just like you said in the first segment. And I just kind of sat down and I hunkered down and started writing a book. And next thing you know, I had a friend who's a publisher, and my friend's like, oh, we got to publish it. I want to publish it. And so we wrote this book, and he didn't explain the fine print. You can't just write a bunch of words and give it to them and they publish it. There's a lot more. But when I sat down to do it, I thought, okay, you're going to publish it, so I'm going to give you a bunch of papers and you're going to do it. But the book really, it lays out how to communicate, how to engage, how do you interact with somebody, which circles do you find yourself at. But I don't know, Doug, are you a poker guy at all?
Am I a what?
A poker player? Poker?
I've played in the past, so I'm familiar with it, but I don't do it on a daily basis or on a regular basis anymore.
Okay, so the book was written based on Texas Hold'em.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely familiar with that.
Okay, so it's written based on Texas Hold'em, and instead of using Texas Hold'em strategies, I turn the strategies into different things. So like, on one hand, I talk about the tells of a great networker. On the other hand, I talk about the pot splasher, the guy who goes and just hands their cards out without even caring or listening to what people say. So it was done to tell a story and to give people, a little antidote to my life and how that story and that life, how I was able to use that to either grow my business or develop a relationship or help somebody with their business. And then it actually gives them true steps in the book to what they're trying to accomplish. It's not necessarily what I'm trying to accomplish. It's what they can get out of their life to do whatever they have to do to move on in life. And it's not just about sales. It could be you just got out of the military, you're a veteran, you're divorced, you're widowed. You have to find a new network. You have to find a new relationship, and you have to truly engage people differently than you did before. And that's what it is. It's about getting out of your comfort zone.
Gotcha. Well, and part of getting out of your comfort zone is obviously people, they're comfortable, they're in a groove, they kind of know what to expect. So there's some fears that come out of that. Now, during your time of transitioning through some of those businesses, is there any particular fear that you can recall that you're just like, man, I don't know if I should do this or not, or anything that stands out? And then if so, what was it, and how did you kind of overcome it and process through that?
I don't think it was a fear of, I don't know if I should do this or not. I think it was the opposite. I think I've always moved forward thinking certain things. And I would say with the mortgage, for example, I realized, believe it or not, I realized after I had to keep editing my book, I realized after reading my book, there was a line in there that told me that once you realize you're at the wrong table, you can't just make it linger. You got to get out. You got to find a different circle, different network. Even though I was talking about networking, I realized I don't want to be a mortgage guy. That's not who I am. I'm a guy who helps people with their businesses. I'm a guy who I don't wait for people to decide when I get a loan. I'm the guy that decides how to help a company, or even clients. When I was an insurance guy, help them get to the next level. So I think the only time I realized what I shouldn't be doing was after I had done it. But at the same time, I look at it and go, okay, so during that time, it made me realize I had to write a book, made me realize I had to go in a different direction. And even with my partner, we're still partners. I'm still founder with him of the mortgage brokerage we have. I don't have anything to do with it, but at the same time, he's still the right person to hand off business to. He's still the right person to do business with. So I don't think, I feel good about those decisions. If that makes sense, I feel good about all the decisions I've made. I realized that was the decision I should have gone directly into helping others build their businesses, because quite frankly, I had my dream. I built a dream. It doesn't mean I don't dream anymore, but my dream is to see people that really want to grow their business. I want to be along for the ride and help them with their success, because I hit the pinnacle with the stuff I built better than most people could at my age. And so I feel great about that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I love the part you just said about, once you realize you're at the wrong table, it's time to leave. That is very, very powerful information. And a lot of people, they're squirming around, not liking what they're doing, but yet they're not doing anything about it. So if you could go back at one point in your life and give yourself one piece of advice, what would it be? At what time in your life was it? And what were you doing then?
I would have paid more attention in high school leading into college. And I would have made it so that would be the best thing for me to do, because I wasted a lot of time not knowing how to do things. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, in this day and age, I wish I could sit around and learn all day long. That would be fantastic. That's almost like the perfect day. And when you're a kid, you don't appreciate the opportunity to learn. It doesn't cost you anything. Everything's paid for. All you got to do is just listen and learn. And that makes perfect sense. I agree with you. I wish I could go back, and no telling what I could have accomplished if I would have paid a little bit more attention in school. So anyway, that's good stuff for our ambitious listeners. And if you like what you hear and you want to be updated on what's going on Ambitious Radio, you can text and subscribe there by texting the word ambitious. That's AMBITIOUS to 69922. Text the word ambitious to 69922. Standard messaging rates applies. See the website for full details. And next, we're going to be talking more to Jeff about the ambitious things that he's doing, right now, and then really what's next on his agenda right here on the Ambitious Radio Network. Hey, ambitious listeners, you hear us interviewing entrepreneurs all the time, and there's a common theme. They want to be more productive and improve their communication. As an ambitious entrepreneur, you're always on the go. So turn your mobile phone into a business phone system with Grasshopper, the entrepreneur's phone system. The Ambitious Radio Network recently partnered with Grasshopper to offer our listeners a special discount. Log on to ambitiousradio.com and click on the Grasshopper banner in the bottom right-hand corner. Get a new business number or keep your current one. Sound professional with a main greeting and multiple extensions that forwards callers to your mobile phone or others in your organization. Get a toll-free number or local number for your business with multiple extensions. Set up each extension with custom call forwarding to any phone in the world. Get your voicemails emailed to you as an audio attachment or transcribe an email. Keep business calls separate from your personal calls. Plans start at $12 a month with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Remember to click on the Grasshopper banner at ambitiousradio.com for a special discount for our listeners. Join the over 150,000 small business owners that have stayed connected with Grasshopper. See how Grasshopper works? It's the entrepreneur's phone system. Turn the world into your office.
Back in here on the show, it's Ambitious Radio Network. Hey, are you thinking of expanding your business but don't want to spend tens of thousands of dollars on a new phone system? Consider Grasshopper.com. You get to keep your existing number, you have multiple extensions, voicemails transcribed, and no new hardware. Grasshopper.com is the entrepreneur's phone system. Let's get back to the show with Doug Parker.
All right, we're back on Ambitious Radio, and I am just learning all kinds of great information on Mr. Jeff Kleid today on Ambitious Radio. I really have enjoyed. I'm making notes. I've got all these golden nuggets he's sharing with us, but want to dive in just a little bit and talk. I know you're doing a business consulting firm now, and so is that where you're deriving the majority of your revenue from now, or how does that work?
Yeah, that's where I spend a lot of my time. I mean, I do speak, and I do speak locally, and I actually just spoke at a convention in Florida, which isn't locally. I spent a few days, but that was actually helping out a fraternity, happened to be my fraternity, but it was the college kids now, and it was an entrepreneurial session, and I got to spend 3 days engaging with the kids and really thinking, understanding the millennials and the generations. I'm kind of both. Like I want to have a voice that makes a difference. I have a lot of respect for people that, speak and engage and motivate. I just feel like sometimes just because you do that and you get people excited, they can't execute all the excitement you gave them. And so I like the hands-on working with a company, knowing that I'm helping their employees go in a certain direction, maybe sell better and be better and make more commission. At the same time, I'm helping the principal figure out what they want to be. Are they the rainmaker? Do they not want to be the rainmaker? Do they want an exit strategy that allows them to keep owning it and not be involved? And I like all of that. So I really enjoy being involved with a company from the top down and the bottom up, and actually strategizing, implementing, and then truly executing and rolling up my sleeves. I really enjoy that. It's exciting to me.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of difference. And there's a lot of people that are at different stages of their business, whether it's, they're kicking it off and they got every hat. They're the janitor and chief bottle washer and everything else. Or like you said, they're the rainmaker. They're not doing some of the maybe administrative type things. They're just, they've gotten beyond that. Or maybe they're at the other end of the spectrum. They're at the end of the season where they're like, look, I've made it rain. Now I just want to take some of my toys and go play somewhere elsewhere. And so do you help walk them through that process as far as like an exit and preparing for an exit? And do you do business brokering, or do you have someone that you help that helps you facilitate that for them, or how does that work?
Yes, it's funny. So it's just, I actually, because I collaborate with so many people, and because I'm surrounded by so many people, and I'll call it Rolodex, people will call it a database. I've got a Rolodex that's been built over 20 plus years of handshakes. And I can absolutely surround myself with people, like to your point. Yes, I have a friend who's specifically an M&A guy, specifically an exit strategist. He works 3 years with a company specifically for how we position to get him to sell. I have another guy who's a process guy. He figures out how to cut you costs, save you costs, buy new equipment, do what you do. Have some human resource relationships, have some digital marketing strategists. So I'm surrounded by all those people. But at the same time, I don't want to just strategize. And so if I can be involved in that aspect of it, then I very much am. But I also will say, like, I have friends who are coaches, they're business coaches, and they focus on coaching. And although I can absolutely do that, I've been in my own forum for years on an entrepreneurial level called EO, if you've ever heard of EO, Entrepreneurs Organization,
yep,
or YPO, or one of those. Like I've been in that for many years, but yeah, I've actually recently, even though a lot of people say, well, how do you scale a consulting practice? I've actually recently had a lot of people say to me, you know what? You need to scale, and you need to bring guys just as qualified as you, bring them on at a different level than, say, a Price Waterhouse, or a different level than some of these other guys that are truly national firms, to really help the middle guy, really help the small business person understand, what their options are and which one of your people is going to do it. So I'm actually toying with it. I don't know. It concerns me because a lot of times people go into consulting because it's between what they want to do. And I actually figured out, no, this is what I want to do. As an insurance guy for 20 years, I was really a consultant, but I had to sell them the product first before I was able to tell them how to use it. And now I don't have to sell them the product first, and I can tell them how to use it. So that's exciting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. Sounds like lots of fun there. Now, so, and it's kind of funny. That's where I was transitioning into, was what was next for you. So, it sounds like you've exited a couple businesses successfully. You've gotten a lot of experience. Now you're using that to help others. And now it's kind of that putting it all back together again, where possibly you're looking at scaling it and growing this thing all over again. Now, let me ask you this: you've done a few things. So, what does retirement, potentially look like for a guy like you? I don't know exactly how old you are or anything else, but you've exited several businesses. So, is this something you think you want to keep on doing forever, or do you want to slow down at some point and just take some time off and travel, or what's your thoughts on kind of what does that look like?
So I'll give you a couple of answers. One is, I was lucky. There was a 3-year period where I still had to work, but I was in shorts and flip-flops every day, and my office was no more than 3 miles from my house. So I think I already had that moment. Two, I'll be 48 next month. I'm too young. I'm way too young. And I got an opportunity at very young age to have some success, faster than some, even though it was later than my friends who finished school sooner, right? Like, it was one of those weird balances. And thirdly, no, I can't stop at all. I mean, I've got 2 kids going in multiple directions, and I've got a family to provide for, and I'm not done. I can't be done. I thought I was done, but that's not what happens when you build a company a certain way. It's not how it happens. You have to figure it out. So I don't have the luxury of sitting back. I have the luxury of still maintaining control over what I'm deciding on how I move forward, and I like that. That's probably the one thing I do enjoy. But no, I mean, I see it probably at 10 years, maybe 10 or 12 years, that I really focus on creating a really good best-in-class experience for people, very similar to the best-in-class experiences I built across the board, which, by the way, I mean, that's my mantra. That's what I did. My companies were designed to provide the best customer service you can imagine and give people the best experience they could have. And it worked 2 times. Even when I sold insurance on the internet, we fielded 100 calls a day with 3 people. And, very rarely did we have someone say, you didn't get back to me in time. And so that's what I want to do again.
Okay. I got you. And that's, I was listening to something the other day, and it was talking about how, for some reason in this day and age, people are really, once they get to a certain age, maybe it's 55 or 60 or whatever, there's this kind of put them out to pasture mentality of retirement and these kind of things, which was just created like in the last, 80 or 100 years or something. Before that, people just kind of worked until they, died or whatever. They just did stuff they liked to do, and they just kept doing it. And like you, I really, I can't really imagine not working. Now, I could imagine slowing down a little bit or changing stuff up a bit. But yeah, it's, you've got all the experience. We talked about that tipping point of becoming an expert at something. Well, by the time you're, 55, 60, 65, 70 years old, as long as you still got your wits about you and you can move around, man, you're leaving a lot of wisdom on the table that others can learn from if you just check out and goof off all the time. So anyway, the idle mind can be a bad thing also. But with that being said, mentoring, I know you said you like to do that with folks. You get a lot out of it. Is there anyone that is mentoring you or that you're following that you tend to get great information from?
Yeah, I actually I like Gary Vaynerchuk, Gary V. He goes by, I mean, you know who he is, but I like watching him. I'm a big fan of Instagram. I'm a big fan. I have a ball on Snapchat because I think it's the greatest thing in the world. Yesterday, actually, I was ranting about a client being out of my control, and I just wish I could have got stuff done. But by the end of the day, I pulled back my rant. But no, I like watching and learning, and I like people telling stories throughout the day or throughout the thing. And I know that, his is very much intentional. It's very calculated, it's very planned, it's very whatever. But at the same time, I believe he's genuine and I like it. And so I enjoy that style. There's a lot of people out there, and it's funny you said that about, the 5-year rule, the 2,000 hours a week, the 5 years. I struggle with a lot of people that have really had some success because, the internet, and that's not just the internet, I mean, it's 25 years old now, but the social media and the platforms and Amazon, you put all that together, you can sell anything, you can do anything, you can make as much money as you want, and you can be a social media guru. And when I look at some of these guys, that said, oh yeah, all my life I wanted to do this, and then they're 24. And you're like, it's like, and you don't doubt their sincerity, you don't doubt their ability, whatever, but their ability comes from what they're doing. Where Gary, he's a young guy, but he's built a business, he's built a successful business, he's hustled, and it comes out in his passion. If I could be the Gary V for the rest of us, I would do it every day of the week. Like if I could sit in a room with business owners and make them understand that their employees don't necessarily have the skill to do what their owner wants them to do, or they don't necessarily have the passion to get out of their own way. And I'm not knocking employees, because employees are great people, and I would be one if somebody would hire me and feel good that I could do it and actually listen to me for the value I bring. But sometimes employees don't see the culture or the mission or something, and so they're not as passionate. Sometimes owners don't see the employees' passion in wanting to be there, but maybe they don't they take it for granted that they can't give their all. So like when I see Gary V surrounded by, his employees and interacting and treating them, on a more level playing field, I like that. I think it's a good fit for where we should be going as business people.
Yeah, that's great stuff, and I've had Gary V come up a couple times on the show over the past couple months, and it's great content. It's not something you want to watch with your or listen to, either one with your kiddos, because he tells it like it is and he doesn't hold back. But it really is great information, and this is as well. I'm really enjoying all the great quality content that you're bringing to our listeners, and it really is really great information for the ambitious listeners. So again, once we hear a little bit from our sponsors that make this possible, we'll be right back with Jeff when we talk about what he does to recharge his ambitious body, mind, and spirit right here on the Ambitious Radio Network.
Here's another RepairMyCreditNow.com story.
Home ownership. It's the American dream. It's a goal you've always hoped to achieve. You've spent countless weekends looking for the perfect house on the ideal block. The rates are low and you've saved enough for the down payment. Unfortunately, now the mortgage company says there's a little hitch. Okay, let's be honest. It's a gigantic, gargantuan hitch. It's your credit. And it looks like your estimated house payment will be a lot more.
www.repairmycreditnow.com.
Hello, this is Doug Parker with RepairMyCreditNow.com. Do you have less than perfect credit, a repo, maybe some late payments, a collection account? Are they being reported accurately? Studies show that over 70% of Americans have inaccuracies on their credit reports. Where do you fit in? Go to RepairMyCreditNow.com for your free credit report evaluation. And remember, your credit is your future. If you want to get started now, log on now. RepairMyCreditNow.com.
RepairMyCreditNow.com. www.repairmycreditnow.com.
And we're back in here on the show. It's Ambitious Radio Network, recharging the ambitious mind, body, and spirit, made possible by RepairMyCreditNow.com. Having bad credit can be really draining. It's okay to not be okay as long as you're on the road to being okay. Let RepairMyCreditNow.com help get you back on track. Many of our ambitious listeners prefer to listen to books as opposed to reading them. Now, with that, we've teamed up with Audible.com to offer you one free audiobook. Just go to AmbitiousRadio.com, click on the Audible banner on the page to find out more. Back to the show now with Doug Parker.
All right, we're back on the Ambitious Radio Network. We've got Jeff Kleid. He's a successful entrepreneur, author, and business strategist. And we've just talked about all the hard-charging and energetic, ambitious things he's been doing for the past, 20-plus years, 30 years, whatever it's been. And now we're kind of to the point where we're really kind of winding it down. So winding down the show. But let's talk about what you do to recharge, because, a lot of people, they grind it out, they look up, and, they've passed their prime and they hadn't had any fun in life. So you got to make sure to enjoy life a little bit. So what is it that you do to recharge whenever you're out there really grinding it out?
On any given day, I try to get as much done as I can in the middle. From the time I, get going. Either I go straight to a meeting, or I go, drop my kid off, or whatever that day brings. And then, by the nighttime, I try not to get bogged down with the work I have to do. And if I do it after, like now I only have one son at home now, the other one's off at school. Or my wife and I will go to a movie, or we'll do something. But on a regular basis, we live here in California, and believe it or not, I go to Disneyland a lot. Even after all those years of telling you about it, I go to Disneyland, and I actually sometimes sit on the same bench I sat on when I used to go to the park to watch people. And I just enjoy it. And I might only go for a few hours. We have a pass, and I enjoy it. I like hanging out there. There's something about it. I also, once a year, this time of year is our favorite time of year. We actually build, I don't know if you remember the movie Beetlejuice.
Oh, yeah.
So the Michael Keaton movie, we actually build an 8-foot square train table, and we open it up to all the neighbors and for on Halloween night. And it literally has houses and trains and lights, and it looks like a live town. And it's really just amazing to do it. And we work on it for about 2 months. We're actually a little sluggish this year. Like, I did a bunch of stuff and then I stopped, and now Monday I plan on coming back and doing some more. I'm going out of town tomorrow for actually it's for my high school reunion, so I'm going to be gone. But the great part about it is it just thinking about it, even if I'm not doing it all year round, I look forward to it. It's something that's fun. And then again, because we live in Orange County, California, it's 70 degrees average any given day. I live like it's on vacation sometimes. I can literally leave here and in 20 minutes be looking at the water down in Newport Beach and just kind of sit there. We can get dinner, or we can just sit there, and my son and I could ride our bikes. It's pretty cool. And you got to keep that balance, by the way. And I think kids keep you that way. Like, even if you've got, every single thing in your life on your mind at that time, your kids don't care. And so you got to figure out how to make that moment count, and then you go back to whatever you got to deal with.
I always like to kind of reiterate this, not because I did the best job in the world at it. 20 years of just absolute grind for me, my adult life. My wife and I have been married a couple decades, but I've got, two adult children. But, I read this at some point, and it just says, kids spell love Time. And, it's one of those kind of deals where when you're trying to make it happen and make a name for yourself and grow your businesses or whatever, it's you, not you, people, sometimes me, I can take for granted the people. You just know your wife's going to be there and your kids are going to be there. And then you look up and they are there, but they're not the same. My kids that are 19 and 21 now, they're not the little kids anymore. And you can't, have the same impact on them when they're 19 and 21 as you could when they were 9 and 11 or 1 and 3 or whatever the case is. And so it makes a huge difference. That's great that you're able to do some of those things and have those magical times, as they say in Disney. But so what about travel? Do you do much traveling, or do you really just do everything kind of right there in your own backyard?
I don't do much traveling. We actually, we've been to a lot of places. We used to, for different events in my old business, we used to go travel a lot. Once a year, we used to go to Hawaii, and we used to go to some other places and countries. But, we live in an environment where you don't need to travel. You can literally disconnect pretty quickly. So we don't do that. I know there's some places we'd like to go, but not often. We don't like to fly. I mean, I don't know. We're simple. We're simple, boring people. It's very funny. We're just not. My wife and I, like, we'd rather put on sweats and go sit at a movie, and then we'd rather go sit by the water. We have a little electric boat in the harbor, so we do cruise around the harbor, and we take our kid and take our fun, and so it's simple stuff.
Well, you just happen to be in an area where there's lots of stuff to do, and you're real close to it because it's simple. But going to the beach, going to Disneyland, that's still pretty pretty active folks, and so that's great stuff. So how about rest? I mean, how much sleep does it take for you to kind of get back recharged?
That's funny. Now you're making me feel like I take it for granted. I don't take it for granted, just so you know. I do know what we have. I really don't. I mean, but I know that's what we can do. So we don't need to go anywhere, and we just don't. We spend our time and our money differently to be around here. You know, I would say I try to go to bed. Try to disconnect and go to bed and get 6 to 7 hours sleep. And it, I would say it's easy for me to go to sleep because I just say, you know what, can't do anything about it until tomorrow. But then I do wake up sometimes before I'm supposed to, and then it's just on my mind. So I have I think a lot of people can't go to sleep. I go to sleep. A lot of people, don't wake up. I wake up. It's kind of a backwards thinking, I think, because I know what I can control, and I know if I can't do anything until I talk to someone at 8 o'clock in the morning, then that's when I have to worry about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So do you have a daily rhythm? Do you try to wind down at a certain time every night and make sure you're in bed before whatever and get up at the same time, or is it just you just try to get 6 or 7 hours of sleep?
By the time we kind of sit down and wind down, it's probably 8:30 or 9. We probably sit there for a couple hours, and usually we watch TV, either just my wife and I or my son until he goes to bed, and then we sit there for about another hour. We probably spend an extra hour more than we should, because we probably between 10:45 and 11 is probably when we call it a night. And then sometimes we're still kind of up a little, but I guess it'd be pretty standard. I mean, I do go out to some events at night, but I would say they're not late events. And then in the morning, the latest the world starts moving around here is about 6:30. I sometimes go spin at 5:45 in the morning, ride a bike that doesn't go anywhere, and that's what I do. But my routine was really good. I actually got to get back into the normal routine. My routine is I should be getting up at 5:30, and I should be out of the house for 45 minutes to an hour and come back at 6:30 and just make it happen. And I've been slowly trying to get back to that, but it takes a lot of work. Mentally, it's tough.
Yep, absolutely. Well, we're kind of wrapped up the show, and I really want to thank you for all of your time today. And just as we kind of close it out, if you could make a request of our listeners, is there any way they could engage with you? Are you social? How would you like for somebody to reach out to you if they need some business consulting or something along those lines?
The best way to reach out to me, I am very easy to find at jeff@jeffkleid.com. Jeff, Kleid.com. I am all over Facebook as, Jeff Kleid, and Snapchat, Jeff Kleid, and Twitter, Jeff Kleid. And the only thing that I'm not Jeff Kleid is I'm JD Kleid on Instagram. But yeah, I mean, if they want to go to cardyouwerdealt.com, which is actually my business site for Jeff Kleid Consulting, they can absolutely check it out. And, if the business owners decided that something's got to change and they believe that it has to do with sales or marketing and how they approach a new market, or by the way, if they decide it wants to change, it doesn't have to change. I mean, if they want to go in a new direction, before our interview, I spent time with 2 friends of mine, put them both together, and they're going to create a whole nother arm of one of the guys' companies. And it just makes sense. So it's just, that's, I just see this stuff clearer than most. So cardyouwerdealt.com is probably a good fit also.
Cool. All right, man. Well, hey, appreciate you so much. And guys, tune in Wednesdays to Ambitious Radio, where we interview thought leaders and exciting entrepreneurs that are changing the faces of their organizations. Remember, you can make money or you can make excuses, but you cannot make both. So go out there and be ambitious.
Thank you for listening to the Ambitious Radio Network, hosted by serial entrepreneur Doug Parker. Join us weekly as we have engaging conversations with ambitious entrepreneurs and thought leaders on topics that can be applied immediately after listening. Like what you've heard? Listen to other interviews at ambitiousradio.com or subscribe on iTunes.